Hello everybody. Firstly, I'd like to welcome you to this webinar where we're talking about palladium and platinum prices amid trade tensions and tariffs and what factors could be influencing their price movements. My name is Sasha and I'm a financial analyst from the research department at ForTrade. Delighted to have you with us. If you have any questions, please call us and ask to speak to a customer service representative who will be happy to help. Before I go any further, please take a moment to read our risk warning and disclaimer. I'm sure you know that although profits can be made trading CFDs, losses can be incurred too, and you need to be aware of this. And now let me explain what a special report is if you don't know. A special report is a one-page briefing containing market analysis, and our goal is to provide you with a simple-to-understand report to trade in the markets. We will select an instrument such as gold or a currency pair and tell you our very best estimate on its price direction so that you can trade on it if you want to. Special reports are produced by the research department on a daily basis according to market conditions. A special report consists of fundamental analysis, geopolitical events, and technical analysis that includes a pivot point and support and resistance levels. It's important to understand it's your decision whether you want to trade on special reports or not. Here is an example of a recent market report. You can see fundamental analysis on what's going on with the USA 500. You can see that this is an uptrend market report over a weekly period, since our analysis suggested the USA 500 would increase in value. At the top, you can see some geopolitical events and fundamental analysis that can influence the USA 500 index. For example, the part about the Fed and interest rate expectations. Below, you also have some technical analysis. When using a special report, it's vital to look at the current price on which the calculations are based. In this instance, if the current price reaches 4,370 that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen here, this shows the right moment and our estimation for opening a trading position, and you decided to trade on a special report when it was active. You can see below the trend direction and the time period. It's also important that you know how to use the stop loss and take profit options. You have support and resistance levels further along. At these points, you can put a stop loss and take profit, and further down you have calculations. If you close the position using take profit, you can expect these kinds of profits at the resistance levels marked in green. If the price is going against you, you can potentially have a loss of this amount at the support levels marked in red. Finally, profit and loss calculations are based on a one-lot trading volume. Let's kick off the webinar by looking at expected global growth. These projections are very important since if these numbers are low or negative, then we could see demand for both palladium and platinum falling, potentially driving their prices lower. In a high-growth global economy, palladium and platinum prices could rise. The latest data was released by the IMF in July is fair from a global perspective. Global growth is expected to be slightly lower than last year at 3.3%, although this and other numbers in the chart should be viewed with caution, since the impact of tariffs which were imposed after these estimated numbers were published has not been fully felt. Regardless, what is important here is the performance of the US and that of China and European economies, for reasons we'll see in a moment. Chinese growth remains just about on course as the country targets 5% growth, although the Chinese economy is still somewhat underperforming. The same is true of the US, which recorded 2.8% growth last year, which is above this year's estimate, which was revised lower at 1.9%. The table makes clear that India and not China is the world's current top performer of the major economies, and this trend will likely continue. The Eurozone, however, is expected to grow 1%, slightly better than last year's 0.9% growth, which is positive for palladium, considering Europe, alongside the US, is the world's second largest consumer. Now we will show how palladium and platinum prices depend largely on demand from China, the US, and Europe. Palladium and platinum are different but related instruments and share much in common. First, both instruments depend heavily on industrial demand. That is, that both platinum and palladium are used in products that are bought by industry or by consumers. Palladium and platinum are heavily used in cars, specifically in the production of catalytic converters that reduce harmful emissions into the air. They're also used in jewelry and in medical equipment. Unlike gold and silver, palladium and platinum are not considered safe havens. They are more volatile instruments that are more prone to higher swings in either direction. The tables above show the latest current figures available, but the order of countries' demand and production remains the same. The prices of both palladium and platinum on the global market depends on China, the United States, and Europe, in that order. For palladium, the Chinese market is the largest, and for this reason you can see on the table that 31% of global consumption comes from China. The US, on the other hand, accounts for a quarter of all platinum demand. In both cases, this means that the price of palladium and platinum to a great extent depends on how well the Chinese and the US economies are performing. The chart shows palladium's price movement since the beginning of the year, and you can see that prices have increased. We can see how palladium hit its highest level. The red line represents the date from which trade tariffs were first announced by President Trump on February the 1st. Palladium prices fell and they declined again to multi-month lows on Liberation Day. The red line on April the 2nd, when the US imposed tariffs on multiple countries. The green line represents the day when the US announced a 90-day delay in tariffs to allow countries to negotiate trade deals. Since then, the US has signed a number of trade deals and palladium's price has jumped by 27.33%. Let's now turn to platinum. As with palladium, we see a similar pattern with the onset of trade conflict and Liberation Day. But since April the 9th, represented by the green line, palladium's price has surged 43.74%. The trade war initially exerted some downward pressure on palladium prices due to likely reduced automotive demand, due to potentially rising car prices amid tariff fears. Palladium has faced a drop in demand largely due to shifts in the automotive sector, with car makers increasingly substituting palladium with platinum in catalytic converters to reduce costs. Additionally, the rise of electric vehicles, which do not require palladium-based components, has lowered demand further. Supply remains robust due to steady imports from Russia, the top palladium producer, although worries over whether Russian exports could be impacted by the trade conflict or due to Washington's hardening stance against Russia due to its war in Ukraine. In recent weeks, platinum and palladium prices were boosted by better-than-expected US and Chinese economic data, which could stimulate demand for both metals. But the major positive factor are cooling trade fears and trade deals being signed by the US with other countries. The belief that a serious trade war will likely be avoided has boosted prices. The recovery in the automotive sector in China has generated additional demand. Platinum use in catalytic converters remains crucial, with increased adoption in response to China's strict emission standards. Hydrogen technology relies on platinum and continues to grow, adding to demand. However, platinum supplies have been relatively constrained due to production challenges in South Africa, which has kept upward pressure on prices despite global economic headwinds. Of course, we at Fortrade will be following any developments that affect the markets which can impact both palladium and platinum, so please do get in touch with a customer service representative if you have any questions. Until next time, goodbye. Please join us at Fortrade again soon.